Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be playing with some eyeshadows from the drugstore. I picked up these two palettes in a recent Shop With Me vlog. I will link it for you guys up here in the cards if you haven't seen it yet. But I've been itching to try these palettes out for, I don't know, what, about a week and a half now, and today we are finally putting them to the test. I'm creating this extra super colorful rainbowy kind of makeup look, so if you'd like to see how this all came together and learn more about these palettes, we're about to get into it. Alright, so here is what we are playing with today, getting super colorful and kind of fun. I have absolutely no idea what I'm gonna do with these, but we'll figure it out. So the first palette I have here, the big one, is the Profusion Metallics palette. This has 24 shades. It retails for $10. You can get it from the Profusion website and also from Walmart. Just learn from my mistakes and check on the Profusion website before you drive out to your local Walmart to see if they actually carry Profusion in the store. There's like a store locator or store checker. You can see exactly what lines are carried at what retailers. So don't be me driving all over the place. Look it up first. Anyway, so this is what the palette looks like on the inside. It also comes with a brush, and now this does actually feel pretty nice. It's very, very soft, so we may use this today. I just think it's a little bit of an odd choice with this palette because everything in here is shimmery and metallic, and this is like a little blending brush. So I would have preferred like a shader or something I could pack these colors on with, but it's not a wasted brush. So I, of course, could not resist and definitely had to at least swatch this guy. I haven't used it on my eyes yet, so this will be the first time we'll be trying it out together. But I have at least kind of touched everything in here and seen how these formulas perform. It looks like not every shade in here has the exact same texture. You have some shades, like I believe this Celebrate shade, that are a little bit more of a topper type formula, whereas then you also have shades like this one here, Adorn, that is more of like a foiled metallic. So I'll swatch so you guys can see. So this is the shade Adorn, which is, oh, beautiful. And then this was the Celebrate shade, which as you can see, doesn't really have as much of a pigmented base. It's a lot more glittery and sheer, whereas Adorn isn't really glittery, it's more of just a metallic, but it's got a lot more base pigment. So those are the formulas we're working with in this palette, and obviously I haven't really familiarized myself with which shades are which formula, so it's gonna take a little while to learn this guy, I'm sure, but there's definitely a ton of fun in here. You've got so many different color options and just so many beautiful, interesting shades, so I feel like you could create a lot of looks with this guy. I'm not really sure what I want to do today, but I'm sure I'll come up with something interesting. And then this guy here is the Spectrum palette. This has 10 shades and it retails for $5. Everything in here is matte, so I thought this might be kind of fun to pair with the Metallics palette since there are obviously no matte shades in there. So let's just swatch a couple of these. Now they feel very, very soft, I have to say. Although it's funny, like this Beat shade, the orange one, feels stiff and scratchy. This blue shade here, Peacock, feels like butter, like silky, silky smooth. So that's odd, interesting. So here is Peacock swatched. It's a little bit powdery, but I feel like when you smooth it over, it blends out really nice. And then this is the shade Beat, which again, like it's a little crumbly, but I feel like if you kind of go back and forth and you blend it out the way you might with a brush, it blends out pretty nice, and they deliver decent pigmentation, so I'm pretty excited to see how they work on the eyes. So I'm not gonna lie, one of the first shades that caught my eye in this palette is this one here, Nebula, because it has kind of a duochrome reflect to it, and this is one of the more glittery type topper shades. It doesn't really swatch particularly well, but I feel like if we applied this over like a glitter glue or maybe layered this on top of another shade, it could have kind of a cool effect. Like I'm wondering, like we have this shade Atlantis, which is like a really, really beautiful, vibrant metallic turquoise. I'm gonna swatch this here. So that's what that looks like. Oh, that's stunning. Now I'm curious if I take a little bit of Nebula and I put that on top, what do I get? That could be cool. Get some like mermaid vibes going on there. All right, so we have options, we have some things. Why don't we get into actually putting these shadows on my eyes? So we'll see how far I can get just with the Spectrum palette. I'm gonna go in with the yellow shade, which is called Marigold, and use this kind of as a transition because it's the closest thing I feel like that I've got. And just so you guys know, I did prep my lids with a little bit of the MAC Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. All right, fingers crossed. So I'm gonna take this kind of high up in my crease. It is definitely showing up. Not like full on neon, but you're getting the yellow, that's for sure. I would say that's not bad. I mean, you definitely are seeing that yellow color show up for sure. So now I'm kind of curious, if I take this light powder blue shade Bermuda and actually use the little buffing brush that came in the Metallics palette, I don't care if it turns a little bit green because ultimately I'm kind of going for a bluey green kind of vibe, I think. I'm gonna put this a little bit lower in my crease and see what happens there. Dude, this brush is actually really nice, not gonna lie. And just so you guys know, I am getting quite a bit of kick up in these pans. Like, these are very powdery matte eyeshadows, so you do get a lot of wasted product kind of fluffing around, but man, blending out like a freaking dream, and the pigment really isn't bad at all. I'm pretty impressed so far for $5 eyeshadows. All right, so now why don't we take some of this Peacock shade here. I'm gonna use the same brush because it's a little bit deeper, and I'm just gonna focus this more on the outer edge of the eye. Dang, yo. Those are really not bad for matte shadows. All right, so why don't we start adding in some of these metallics? I'm gonna go into the Atlantis shade. Oh, so pretty. Not really sure where I'm going with this, but I'm gonna start, we'll try it with my finger and apply this more towards the outer corner. Now I haven't put anything down underneath this, I'm just using it dry on the lid. Let's see how that works first. All right, so a little bit of crumbling, but I feel like the pigmentation is pretty good just with the finger. I'm gonna go in with another small pencil brush here into the shade Nautical next, and maybe just add this to the outer corner and see. See, now I feel like that's doing weird things where it's like sticking to the metallic shadow and it's not sticking to my actual lid where I'm like trying to place it. Odd. Let me go back in with that brush I used with the turquoise shade. All right, so I don't love what's happening there. Before I put the metallic shade on the other eye then, I'm gonna just try layering up the blue. Maybe it's just this blue shade. I mean, its swatch is fine. It's a little patchy, a little less pigmented, so that might be part of the problem. All right, I'm gonna go back in with that Atlantis shade. Take 2. And see if I can kind of smooth things out a little bit. So I have Fallout City all here, all along my cheeks and under my under eyes. This is definitely a very powdery eyeshadow. So let me try to just fix some of that. All right, so for the inner portion of the lid, I think I'm gonna take this shade Geode, which is kind of a cool minty color on a Sigma Exact Blend brush. And we're gonna try popping this guy in the inner portion and blending it into the other metallic shade. I feel like it picks up pretty decently well with a brush. But again, there's a little fallout because it's a little bit of a chunky shade. All right, so before I move on, what I think I'm gonna do is kind of just perfect and go back over everything I've done so far. So like take that initial light blue Bermuda shade. I'm gonna kind of try to see if I can intensify things up here in the inner corner, and then go back in with Peacock, more to the middle portion of the crease. And I'm gonna try more of a dense flat brush with this shade Nautical, and I'm gonna try just patting this on because apparently blending it was not working so well. Yeah, that is a little bit better. Yeah, see, I feel if you go and try to blend over this at all, it just basically takes it all completely away. The formula is unfortunately too powdery, so it doesn't really stick to itself like at all. All right, so in the name of science, I'm gonna take some NYX Glitter Primer and I'm going to apply this kind of all over the lid. And I'm gonna go back in with the metallic shadows that we applied and see if using the glitter primer helps them to kind of adhere a little bit better. All right, so going in first with the Atlantis shade, and this time we're using a brush. I think that's definitely giving us a lot more, especially in the way of shine. And then the shade Geode. All right, so adding a glitter primer definitely gave these metallic shadows some life. I feel like if you just put them on with your fingers, it's really not enough. You need to foil this formula or give it some kind of sticky base for it to like really adhere well to the eyes. But I need to show you guys something. All right, look at this weird thing that's happening right here where there's like a weird like stripe, a patch. It almost looks like a wet spot, like a water stain on my eyes. It's not really as noticeable on the other side, but over here you really see it. And when I did my look with the new Stila Happy Hour palette, the same thing happened. And this has never happened to me in many years of doing my makeup. And I'm wondering if this is the culprit, because this is new to me. I had been using the Too Faced glitter glue forever and ever, and it never did this. I would put it on my lid and it would stay there and it wouldn't like seep up into the matte shadows and like do anything funky and weird to them. It wouldn't make the colors bleed like that. So I'm feeling confused and dubious. Maybe I need to repurchase the Too Faced glitter glue, even though it's hella expensive. Anyway, as far as where we're at right now, I feel like things are looking kind of patchy and kind of weird, especially in my crease. I feel like the yellow shade blended out nicely. That first powder blue shade went on really beautifully, and even the turquoise. But then as soon as I added that nautical blue shade, things started to get kind of weird. It started to like patch off, especially right here in the outer corner, and it's been driving me a little bit crazy. I'm gonna try to layer a little more on. Like, you can see if I apply it and I don't blend it, it's fine. It's just that the second you go to actually do any blending, it just like disappears. So I'm kind of really bummed about that weird water stain looking thing. I tried to buff it out, but it's not really going away on this eye. So we might just have to make do with it. So in the interest of trying out more colors, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is go into this shade called Rain on a small little pencil brush, and I'm going to smudge this into the lower lash line. That one is going on pretty nicely. I'm wondering with the blue if it would have to be the first shade you went in with, like if it would have to go directly onto the primer in order for it to stick. If these are more like pressed pigments, I know like something I've heard through the grapevine before is that it's better to go darkest to lightest when you're working with pressed pigments, just because the darker shades need something to adhere to. If you try to lay them on top of lighter colors, they don't really stick. So maybe that's what's happening with the blue shade. I'll have to try that out next time. Maybe we'll mix in just a teeny bit of that dark blue right in the very outer corner, just to kind of connect everything together. And you know what I'm wondering, what I'm thinking? If I take just like a teeny bit more of the glitter primer right on this outer edge, and then I go in with that nebulous shade, and I just kind of add a little bit of that. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Adds a little like ombre purple effect there on the outer corners. Okay, so now as far as an inner corner highlight goes, there's this shade up here called Illusion that's kind of like a bright, shiny white color. that is also making a giant mess. I'm gonna try to just pop a little of this to the inner corner. And I'll make sure to go back in also with my geode shade to blend the two. Can we see how much of a giant mess I am making in this palette right now? It is, it's kind of a disaster. These are just very, very crumbly metallics. Like, they look really beautiful once you layer them over the right base. They're just gonna get literally all over everything while you're using them. All right, so I feel like we've done enough for now with the eyeshadow. I'm gonna just move on to liner, lashes, finishing things up. I'm going to put this purple Dose of Colors eyeliner in the shade Crushed in my lower waterline because it's purple. I think it will work. And then for the upper lash line, I feel like something this bold and colorful needs like a good old wing. So I'm just gonna go in with my Sigma liquid pen eyeliner and do it up. I don't know, guys. Today is just not my makeup day. That was such a struggle. I felt like my eyeliner pen kept like running out. It might just be because the shadow is so sticky. The metallic shadow has a texture that doesn't let a felt tip pen really glide nicely across it. It kind of like gunks up the tip of the felt pen so that the actual like liquid liner can't flow through. So I just felt like everything was not gliding and working nicely. I don't have like really crisp wings, which is driving me a little bit crazy. I feel like a gel pot liner would probably be much better to use with those metallic shadows, especially just because you don't have that kind of issue with the gel pot shadow. So I'm gonna throw on my mascara and lashes using the Too Faced Better Than Sex and then these Color Lit Powerful lashes. So let me do that and then we'll be back to chat. All right, guys, so lashes are on. The look is complete. Here is what we are currently working with, and I've got lots of thoughts to share. So the first thing to note about both of these palettes is that they're messy. They have tons of fallout in the pan. The mattes were very powdery, even though they had a decent amount of pigment. You dip your brush in there and it's like powder is flying everywhere. And then the metallics have more of like a flaky formula to them. So if you try to pick them up with a brush, it's just little glitter flecks flying everywhere. So my desk looked like an eyeshadow bomb went off on it. I tried to clean some of it up, but just be aware, maybe don't get dressed before you do your makeup with these guys because you might get eyeshadow on your clothes. You're gonna get eyeshadow all over your desk. Just be forewarned. Now, when it comes to the Spectrum palette specifically, I think what you guys realized or saw me struggle with is that not all of these shades are created equal. I feel like the yellow shade that I used blended out really nicely. This blue shade up here, Bermuda, actually blended out really beautifully. And even the turquoise shade, Peacock, was fine. But this shade, Nautical here, I felt like it just did not deliver. I couldn't get it to actually like build up and blend. So like you put it on and it actually can be packed on fairly well. Like you could see it pretty intensely, but then as soon as you try to like blend it out, it was just disappearing altogether. Again, I think with this one, you may have to go in with it first before any other eyeshadows so it's adhering directly to primer. I'm gonna try that next time I use that shade, and if any of the other shades we didn't use today, you know, all the warmer tones, if I encounter the same issue, I'll try that as well. But I was kind of disappointed that all of the shadows didn't perform equally beautifully. So right now, with the way my eyeshadow is looking, I feel like, and I'm noticing it even more now than before, like there's just so much patchiness right up here in my crease. It's not blending really smoothly into the metallics despite my attempt to do that. So I just feel like the Spectrum palette mattes didn't ultimately play super nicely with the metallics. It was just a little bit difficult to get everything nice and smooth and even. I think maybe if that blue shade had built up a little bit more, it would look a little less patchy, but again, you want to be able to build and blend, and I just feel like this was having difficulty with that. Then as far as the metallic palette goes, I think this has some really, really cool, fun shadows in it, and I do think that once I layered these guys on top of the NYX Glitter Primer especially, I mean, the shine I have in my lids right now is pretty insane. It's absolutely beautiful. We'll see how long wearing it is. We'll see if it like creases or moves around at all, but I think if you can get over the fact that that these are kind of like a little bit flaky, chunky, and are willing to work through the mess, they ultimately are going to have really, really beautiful payoff on the eyes. Also, I was extremely impressed by the brush that came in here. It was very, very soft. It blended out really beautifully. Like, this is a gorgeous little precise crease brush. So definitely going to be keeping this. I was expecting for it being a $10 palette to this be kind of like a throwaway item. Totally surprised. And then also, as I noted after I did my eyeliner, I think because these eyeshadows have, especially the glittery ones, a slightly more almost sticky texture to them, I had a really hard time with my felt tip liner. I would definitely recommend using a gel pot liner with these shadows if you're gonna do a wing. So despite the struggles, I mean, I think the end look, while it not being the most perfect thing I've ever done, is kind of cool. I like the whole rainbowy eye vibes. I definitely feel like these palettes are interesting and fun to play with. I'm glad that I picked them up, and they really are incredibly affordable. I mean, for $5, I feel like these shades, like, it gives you some cool, fun rainbow options to play with. I don't expect them to perform as well as like Viseart matte shadows. Definitely going to need to use the other shades in this palette to see whether or not we run into the same issues or if they perform any better. So I'll keep you guys posted on this front. I don't necessarily feel like my money was wasted on this, but it'll be interesting to like compare it to the performance of the Carity Mattes palette, which is quite a bit more expensive, but I know those shadows blend out beautifully. This guy though, I feel like for $10 is probably worth the money. Also definitely need to play with more of the shades in here because there are so many and we only got to use a few today. But all in all, I feel like the impact of these shadows is absolutely gorgeous. It's just gonna be a matter of figuring out what's the best way to use them. I think the glitter primer helped. Next time, maybe we'll try with some MAC Fix Plus. I was experimenting with swatches before this video, and I felt like the wet brush almost made some of the shades too watery. It was kind of weird, especially the glittery shades, but we'll see. Maybe we'll have to do another look using these guys on camera in the near future. So I think that about wraps things up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and playing with some new makeup. I hope you enjoyed seeing this look come together and hearing my first thoughts on these palettes. Definitely leave a comment and let me know if you guys would like to see me use these palettes again, create another look, maybe do something more like pinky purple or something with more warm neutral tones. Let me know your thoughts. Either way, I definitely will continue to test and play with these guys off camera, and I will come back to you at the end of May and let you know my final thoughts. And on that note, I have an epic mess in front of me that I need to clean up, but I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.